Can we just clarify the $1 billion? Is that new money and over what sort of period?
Looking at the capacity you need to build up to deliver it, it's going to have to be over about 15 years. That's still an enormous increase over what ECA does now. And yes, it is new money. It's money that is generated by the emissions trading scheme that the government wouldn't have otherwise.
So money that the government gets from the emissions trading scheme will be distributed based on a criteria of lower and middle income people to help fund their insufficient gas.
That's right. I mean, ECA has programs that do it now. It's just very small scale. It'll be, I would imagine, a mixture of straight out grants and heavily subsidised loans, but look, that's for the ECA board to determine. There's no doubt that the lowest income people can't afford to contribute, and this needs to be done for them.
So how many people do you estimate will get that subsidy to insulate their homes over that period?
There's no reason why this money shouldn't be enough to ensure that every home in the country that is substandard gets some help depending on the income of the household.
Without any other cost to the government, because it's simply recycling money going from ETS.
That's the intention. I mean, it's up to the government how they fund it, but we have talked about the principle of revenue recycling here.
When did you actually make the decision to support the scheme?
At about a little after 12 o'clock today.
Was it unanimous?
There were strong views expressed in the caucus, and all of us had quite mixed feelings, but in the end we reached a consensus.
Your co-leader, Russell Norman, isn't with you today. Should we read anything into that? Did he support this one?
He did support the scheme. What you should read into that is that he's down on the forecourt of Parliament talking to the scrap metal people about the waste bill. We do have more than one issue in front of us most of the time.
Are the subsidies for insulation the only help that people will get with their rising energy costs under the ETS?
No, there will also be a cash payment in year one, which will be universal but differentiated.
Can you say how much it is?
I think there are some things I shouldn't announce now. I've tried to talk about the things that we have mainly won. We have been keen for there to be cash payment, but it's not simply our issue.
That's something New Zealand First is negotiating.
Well, I think all three parties wanted to do something in that respect, and I don't want to steal everybody else's thunder.
Right. So just so that we can tell the public as much about this as we can, you're talking about a cash payment in the first year of the scheme being introduced on some sort of sliding scale of income or something?
In the year that electricity prices first feel the impact, which is 2010.
People will be compensated?
There will be a cash compensation.
Depending on what their income is, obviously.
It's income driven, not energy consumption driven.
It is certainly not energy consumption driven. We've made it very clear from the beginning that we don't agree with the idea of giving the greatest cash back to the people who waste the most power. So it will be based on household income, not on electricity consumption.
You said it's universal. Do you mean everybody gets something?
Why did it take you so long to come to this decision?
It took us a while because there are some substantial downsides as well as some upsides. Mainly the impression this gives that this is solving the problem when actually it is a small part of it. The fact that we hadn't made more progress on agriculture, the fact that we hadn't managed to roll back the delay in transport. I guess they were the main obstacles. There is a view that a lot of the effort that is going to be inspired by this scheme is just going to be in carbon trading. It's going to be in speculative dealing and arbitrage and ticket clipping. And we don't think that's a benefit to anybody. It's a necessary consequence of having a trading scheme, which is why we always went for a simple recycled carbon charge. But if you're going to have a trading scheme, you have that downside, and you've got to make sure that the upside is big enough to balance that off.
So what's your estimation of the amount that this will reduce emissions?
I'm not really in a position to estimate that. You need a complete econometric model of the economy, and then you'd probably still get it wrong. The Minister has estimated a 2% reduction. He did that right at the beginning. I think it'll be a little more with the changes that we've got, but I can't say it's huge, which is why I told the ETS Australasian conference in Auckland last week when I was speaking on a panel moderated by Simon Upton, and he was asking how much of what we need to do is the emissions trading going to do, and how much is going to be the result of complementary measures. And a lot of people were saying, oh, emissions trading is the heavy lifter, other things are just sort of around the edge. And I said, oh, maybe the emissions trading scheme will do 20% of what we have to do. The rest of it we're going to have to do with more direct methods. Because actually, 20%, a 2% change is just so far off what we have to achieve that we've got to do a lot more than just this.
So can you just clarify, I maybe misunderstood you, but you began by saying you couldn't give a final sort of sign-off because of the three-way negotiations. Can you explain what the deal is here with the three-way negotiations?
My understanding, we have only talked to Labour. Our attempts to talk to New Zealand First didn't succeed. We have understood all the way through that all three parties were seeing everything that was on the table and there would be no surprises at this stage. I've told Labour this morning that based on where we had got to by last night, we have said yes, and we've not put any qualifications or conditions on that. It's too late for qualifications or conditions. However, if something totally new were to emerge out of left field tomorrow, then there's no commitment.
Right, so it's just an insurance policy in case New Zealand First has struck some deal that you don't know about and you're unhappy with.
I don't believe they have struck a deal at all, so I trust Labour when they say that's not the case. But, until everybody's signed, you never know what's going to happen.
You said after the election, or in future, you'll be pushing for other things like public transport, technology improvements and so on. But does this close the door on the emissions trading scheme itself, or will you be looking for changes to that as well under the next government, whatever stripe it might be, i.e. the Time Transports Board or Agriculture's Board and so on?
There is a process in the Act, a provision in the Act for 5 yearly reviews of basically everything. The content of the allocation plans, who's in and who's out, timing, processes, all of it. The first one of those, as I understand it, will happen or start to happen in 2011, which is not all that far away. So the principle that this is reviewable is already built in. And it seems to me that post-election negotiations are opportunities to negotiate on anything. So we won't be missing any opportunities.
Which is presumably if National, as it said it would scrap it and start again, but moderate it in some way with its own scheme, then presumably you could equally negotiate something with Labour to change it.
We could certainly negotiate with whoever we're talking to after the election, yes. It would have been much easier for us if John Key had answered my letter when I asked specifically what he would do on a number of issues that National had actually raised in their minority report on the legislation. He wasn't able to give me those answers. So we have not been in a position to compare what Labour's scheme is with what National might offer. However, all of their language has been around making it easier for the big corporate emitters and making it easier for farmers, even than what is here at present. So I don't sense that they are likely to put up something that is environmentally stronger or fairer than this. But hey, if they do, we'd love to talk to them about it.
Did you ask New Zealand First for talks on this and they refused?
I had a meeting set up quite some months ago with Doug Bulletin, and that was cancelled at their end because he was not in charge of negotiations, and since then we've just talked with them.
What do you say to Green supporters who would have wanted the party to hold out for more and who may now feel that the party sold out?
I think that our Green supporters will be happy with the gains that we've made. There will be some who think we should have got more. I guess all I can say to them is, you come and try together. Because we have tried our utmost.